Hello everyone, welcome back to another brand new video, and today we will be going over the top 5 trolls in Jujutsu Kaisen. For those who don't know, trolling is basically rage bait and or intentionally tricking somebody. Jujutsu Kaisen has had many trolls, most of them coming from the author Gege Akutami, or Greg as I like to call him, and while he is fantastic, woo does he piss me off sometimes. And before we hop into things, this video will contain spoilers from the manga, so anime onlys beware. But with that being said, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into this list. Coming in at the number 5 spot is actually not a troll from Greg, but some trolls from Mappa, because at number 5 we have anime-only trolls. Anime-only trolls are rare, but when they happen, they are usually really funny, and with JJK, 2 of them come to mind. Our first is in Season 1, showing Junpei in the opening wearing a Jujutsu High uniform. Eagle-eyed viewers would see this and assume Junpei is along for the ride and will be recruited to Jujutsu High at some point, but instead, he is brutally killed at the hands of Mahito, and that frame was put into the opening as a fake-out.
Holy fuck! That was diabolical!
The second troll that comes to mind is an all-timer of a troll, and I am of course referring to the fake-out ending in Season 2. During the Hidden Inventory arc, we get this amazing monologue from Riko at the end of episode 3, where she decides that she wants to live, and the ending begins to play in the background, making us think that this monologue will transition into the ending of the episode. But you all know what happens next. A gunshot rings out, killing Riko and silencing the music. One of the best trolls in recent anime history.
She was standing on the street, and then she was laughing, and then they shot her!
Coming in at the number 4 spot is the first of 4 trolls from the Shinjuku Showdown. Yes, you heard that correctly. All 4 entries left on the list are from the final arc of JJK because Shinjuku Showdown is just that hilarious. Anyways, the number 4 spot on this list is just a simple panel from one of the final chapters of the manga, it being this very panel of Takaba and Kenjaku ? These 2 characters ended up fighting each other in the Shinjuku Showdown, and it was assumed that both of them were dead. We don't end up seeing either of them again until this panel in the second to last chapter. The most logical assumption is that Takaba lived and is manifesting a clone of Kenjaku as part of his technique, but this is just a ridiculous thing to drop onto the readers during the finale of your manga. I imagine it's just supposed to be funny and glossed over, but I don't really feel like glossing over the fact that we have a potential Kenjaku clone in our midst. Does he have his own brain and autonomy? Does he still have access to Kenjaku's curse technique? I just feel like this panel gives us more questions than answers and is quite the troll to leave us with in the penultimate chapter. Coming in at the number 3 spot on the list is one of my favorite trolls, and one that still grinds my gears. Domain expansion is one of, if not the coolest single thing that Greg came up with in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. It was instantly iconic, and it still is. Even non-anime watchers have added it to their lexicon of funny phrases because of how much it's bled into mainstream culture. With that in mind, every viewer and reader was waiting with bated breath for the moment when our glorious main character, Yuji Itadori, would be able to pop his very own domain expansion, and that time finally came during chapter 264. Knee-deep into the battle against Sukuna, Yuji finally said those amazing 2 words of domain expansion. But something I failed to mention is that usually the words that follow domain expansion is the user saying the name of their domain expansion. But not this time.
Line? You don't have any lines!
Yuji just says domain expansion, and the rest was history. To this day, Yuji, our main character of the series, does not have a named domain expansion. He's the only character to not have a named domain expansion besides Smallpox Deity and the other characters that we know had one but weren't able to use it in the series, which is another troll in and of itself. All those years of speculation and theorizing, people saying that it would be named Benevolent Shrine, it all just didn't matter because what we got was just domain expansion. Coming in at the number 2 spot on the list is probably my personal number 1, as I wasn't around for what you will see as the eventual number 1 spot. Basically what I'm trying to say is this troll is personal to me. Let's set the scene. Chapter 258 ends with Sukuna unleashing his Fuga ability on a couple of our characters, Yuji, Choso, Maki, Miwa, and the Shiesty Sorcerer. I think the manga went on break week or just in between the weeks. I ended up making a discussion video with my friend Lucas where we touched down on the manga currently and we talked about this cliffhanger and how we thought it was improbable that any of these characters could die.
It's interesting, Fuga, because we haven't seen him used before besides on Jogoat. And the people on the battlefield are all people that shouldn't really die narratively. Chozo dying actually, I guess, could make sense with Yuji being there. However, Chozo dying would completely invalidate the meaning behind Yuki's death. I wouldn't put it past Gigate to kill Chozo, but I would personally feel very against the idea.
Well, chapter 259 rolls around and we learn that it is Choso who gets hit with Fuga and dies as a result. Now, I have a numerous amount of issues with the decision to kill Choso, but that's for another time. For now, let's just focus on the fact that Yuji's brother Choso dies, and in the same chapter, still chapter 259, we see the return of Aoi Todo, who has been gone for almost 150 chapters, and who is also Yuji's imaginary brother. So instead of seeing Yuji's brothers interacting, and we get a cool scene of all three of them fighting Sukuna, or even just talking, Choso dies within seconds of Todo arriving. This is truly just unbelievable levels of trolling, especially since Todo's master Yuki died during the Culling Games, and she died for Choso. Yuki and Todo never interacted, and Choso and Todo never interact, and I find it to be one of the manga's most missed opportunities and the second biggest troll in Jujutsu Kaisen. But coming in at the number 1 spot on today's list, a troll so famous, a troll so devious. It superseded the Jujutsu Kaisen bubble and invaded the mainstream. I'm of course talking about the infamous chapter 236. The previous chapter of 235 concluded the Gojo versus Sukuna fight, with the final panel of that chapter telling the audience that Gojo won. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Gojo was the strongest and Jujutsu Kaisen is over. He saved the day. Then 236 dropped, and it begins in an airport, which is weird because the Shinjuku Showdown is not in an airport. Then you start to realize that everybody Gojo's talking to in this airport is no longer alive. And then it starts to hit you that something isn't quite right. And then you turn the page and you see Satoru Gojo doing his best Darth Maul impression. The number 1 spot on the list of top 5 trolls in JJK can only be Satoru Gojo has won. The whole fandom was doing victory laps for a week, only for it to be shut down in spectacular fashion the very next chapter. I knew that Gojo had died before I even know who the character of Gojo from JJK was. That's how viral this death was, and it was the easy choice for number 1. Anyways guys, that has been the top 5 trolls in Jujutsu Kaisen. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know down below if you agree or disagree. And I did conveniently leave the biggest troll character off of today's list because I think she's a big enough topic for her own video. Until next time, like and subscribe for more, and have a wonderful day.